Hi, I'm Sandra, and just want to tell you a wee bit about Families Campaign for Change. We're a group of mothers from the Highlands to the borders. There's 34 mums in our group, so we're covering the whole of Scotland for families. And mothers are predominantly the ones that are fighting for change for the services and what our families go through. And we do support each other. We are a support group, but we're a campaign group to see if we can change things in Scotland that we're, as families, that we're not happy about. This morning's presentation said it all, for the panel that sat here, for the funding, for everything else that's happened. We need to change things, and I think the families are going to be the ones that's got the answers to a lot of things, because we live it 24/7, 7 days a week. And it's 365 days. We don't have the services that we need. We have to deal with our families all the time. I'm a mum of 3 adult children, and just for today, my 3 girls are in recovery, and I'm very grateful for that. But I know things can change tomorrow, and I've been through hell with services over the years, and that's why I decided to start Families Campaign for Change. We'll be 4 years old in February, and we're slowly building the momentum up. And we decided this time last year, maybe in November, December, that we really wanted to go to Dublin, because one of our family members, Stephanie, was in Dublin and passed by out a walk to go past the Rialto Community Drug Service, and she asked if she could come in and speak to them, and that's how this came about. So it's took us most of the year to get it organised. We're very grateful to Scottish families and the Scottish Government for helping us get the thrift fund to fund our trip to Dublin. So we appreciate that, because it's not something that we're not at work. We're just ordinary mothers trying to fight a campaign to change things in Scotland. So that's where we're at now. And I hope you enjoy what we found out in Dublin, because we're absolutely delighted with what we've seen, and we want to share it with you.
Okay, so I'll just give you a little bit of background about the service that we visited. I know Dublin well. All my family live in Dublin, and I was aware growing up when the heroin crisis hit in Dublin, the impact it had. The area that Rialto is in covers almost a triangle in Dublin off the South Circular Road. It's a very mixed environment, very affluent in one part, but other parts you have a couple of housing estates, sort of 1950s, one called Dolphin House, another called Rialto, and then the other one is Fatima. So this is what St Andrew's Centre, the Rialto Community Drug Addiction Team, serve as from their service. And there's a lot of regeneration going on in these areas, but the issues that the panel described today, that they're not being challenged so much now with heroin, it's crack cocaine and other issues. So there's a lot of intergenerational issues in these areas. So that summer's evening, I was out for a walk in Rialto, and I saw a lot of people standing outside looking very happy and relaxed. And I saw the sign, and I thought, right, well, being a nosy mother, I'm going to ask them about this service. And they couldn't praise it enough. And we started the conversation. This was a year in planning. So we contacted the team. We wanted to make sure that our questions were going to sit easy with them, and we didn't just want to say we want to come and visit. We had a clearly thought out idea of what we wanted to see. So whilst we appreciate the wider issues that were going on in services, our focus was particularly where families fitted into this, and this is where the really rich learning that we've observed in Dublin is so important to what came up in Audit Scotland, to what the panel was talking about, and the other presenters. It's all there. Now, the team were very clear that things are not perfect. They have their challenges in Dublin. They've had services cut. They've had political, in favour, out favour of how services should be. But despite that, they're there. And Susan will talk a bit more about that. So we had key points of learning. So we framed this as a learning journey. We were going on a journey of discovery. We did have conversations. The team were clear that what we wanted to have a conversation with them and observe that they could meet that. So we drafted our learning journey around this. So what we really wanted to know was, we wanted to know how the helpline worked through the Rialto Community Drug Team, and we'll talk a bit more about that. We wanted to know about integrated service design, how that worked in Dublin. And I think we can agree from Audit Scotland today and the other conversations that things are not as good as they should be, but there are pockets of good practice in Scotland. But, you know, if we think about, I've been on this journey for 17 years now with my son. My background is in health. I thought I could navigate the system for him, but boy, was I shocked when I started that. So we also wanted to know about an integrative approach to the person that really meant that everything was being taken into consideration, not this compartmentalisation where people ricochet around services, and for the person, they have no idea of how this whole system works. So very much an integrative approach. And our other bit was we wanted to know about the range of family services, which we'll share with you. And then the real important bit for us was the Citizens' Assembly that the Irish Parliament have just concluded. And for us as a family group, we are going to call for a Citizens' Assembly, but we'll talk a bit more about that. So I'll hand over.
So the Rialto Community Drug Project was started, it was over 30 years old. It's been in the community within Rialto. And when we went to visit it, the thing that kind of struck us the most was the deep community values that was embedded within it. So although we went to visit the drug community team, as part of that environment, what we also found was there was an older people's day centre, there was an opportunity to do volunteering and workforce stuff. There was a youth centre up the stairs, and what it felt like was that real whole systems community approach. So when we talk about anti-stigma campaigns that we've spoke about throughout the morning, for me that's the ultimate approach to anti-stigma, when we have all these services in one area, and that's something that we could definitely feel as we walk through the door of the service. So within Rialto Community Drug Team, it's like a one-stop shop. I think what was really impressive about it was that it wasn't about having waiting lists. It wasn't about people not being able to access services. There had housing drop-in, did family therapy, complementary therapies, community prison links and family support was really embedded within it. I guess when we talk about creating trauma-informed services, when we talk about being person-centred, sometimes that can feel a little bit hollow, because actually what we're looking for, what that feels like is often a tick box. But when we went to visit this service, you could feel it from the minute you walked through the door, Sandra, couldn't you? You want to?
Yeah, I was really impressed as a mother to see how kind everybody was to each other. I've never seen that in service. I've just not seen it with my family. I can only talk about my family's experience and how everybody interacted with each other. There was 13 services running out that building, 13. And they took us to see everyone, and every door got opened, and they were so happy to see us and to share everything with us. There was nobody didn't want to speak to us and keep everything to their shell and no share it like the Secret Service, because that's how I feel our services work. It is very much like the Secret Service. They didn't want to share it in case their funding gets stopped and maybe you'll get more than me. It was nothing like that. And you just felt the love and compassion. And I didn't mean people were touching you. And everybody really cared about everybody else, and every service worked together. And I was just blown away. But every day we were there, it just got better and better what we were seeing. And they've been doing it. It's actually 32 years the centre's been open. And the staff that work there, I think Anne was there for 25 years. Somebody else was 18 years. So they're not going through dozens and dozens of staff every year. Now, their funding has been cut. They've not had a pay rise for, I don't know how long, a few years. But that's not what it's about. It's not about the money. It's about the community that they've created. And everybody was just, the families that we met mothers, and they just they were blown away. They couldn't believe what we were saying about our serving. They were like, really? Really? Does that not happen in Scotland? So we discussed quite a lot of things. What we did find, that they haven't got a naloxone programme running like we have, and they were very impressed with that. We were saying how well the naloxone programme has been rolled out in Scotland. So they're interested in that. And what we wanted to encourage, that we share what we've got. Don't be greedy. If you're doing something good, let us know and we'll do the same. So they're quite keen to come over here and see what good practice we do that they don't do. But to have an integrated service, that's something we didn't have. And that's what I can only say how well it was. But then we moved on from there to, is this us now onto the block? Stephanie's going
I'm going to flip forward to families works, and then we'll come back to the blocks. One of the really impressive aspects of the Rialto service was family works, and this was a systemic family therapy that was embedded in the practice, and it worked on the principle, if any family or person was engaged in the Rialto community drug team, if there was a child in the family under 18 years of age, then they took a whole family approach, and that included everyone from the youngest children that were able to engage from play therapy, developmental play, right through to grandmothers who were often the main support in the families. They did acknowledge that the daddies can be a bit more difficult to engage, but they found they did manage to do that. So this systemic family therapy was hugely powerful, and the two therapists that worked there were, they'd been primary school teachers, and they were observing the impact on young children with intergenerational trauma and drug-related issues. So one of the key things of family works is they get in there as early as possible, and it's the whole family that is included, and they see good outcomes from this. So this was really very, very important, and this brings us back to the intergenerational aspect. So I'll try and flip back to the other. Do we go back this way? Yeah. So I mentioned that Fatima is a part in Dublin. We're going to show you a very short clip. But what this came out of was, from the intergenerational trauma, many of the mothers now that are involved in creating the stories around losing, some of them have lost 3 and 4 children. So there's not many people that it hasn't impacted on. So this is a short animated film by the Rialto Community Drug. And the really important thing about this is it really reflects the culture of that area. This wouldn't transfer well to the north of Dublin, but it's very culturally specific to Fatima, Dolphin's Barn, and that part of Rialto. But Fatima has now been demolished and refurbished, beautiful refurbished flats, but the drug issues are still there, and this is something that they wanted to really be much more open about and speak about. So I'm just going to click on to the film that we're going to show you. It's a short clip. Here we are.
That's me, Christina, or as my ma used to call me, Sissy. Sure, it was an experience. It was life experience. We sit back and we think of the good and the bad times.
So if you go on to the Rialto Community Drug Team website, they have a section on resources. If you do a drop down, you'll get the link to the films there, and you can see the full-length animated films. There is a third film in the making, and we've been invited back for that, so we're looking forward to that. So it's well worth a watch, particularly from that idea of young children, intergenerational trauma, and hidden harm. So I think we can go to... Oops. Okay, right, we've covered family works. Oh, maybe got harder. So this is all part of family works as well with the older women, so it's very much intergenerational. Oh, right. Okay. So we'll share a bit of this presentation. We went to another part of Dublin called Ballyfermot, which is another large suburb of Dublin that's, again, very mixed, some quite affluent bits of Ballyfermot, but a lot of hidden poverty as well. This was an absolutely amazing service called Family Base, and I'm going to quote Brendan, who was the amazing, I think he was the manager, or that he talked about, we work with people from the womb to the tomb. That was his catchphrase. And that meant that, you know, mothers expecting children, children already in that family, and often then where they lost siblings, or obviously where they had kinship care with grandmothers or grandfathers. So it was a completely wraparound service that operated from early morning, where the children could come in, till 10 o'clock at night. That's how they operated. And very much they were tuned in to the issues in Ballyfermot as an area. They knew the families that were struggling. They knew the children that were maybe had been caught up in dealing because they needed money to put money in the electricity or put food on the table for the younger siblings because maybe mum wasn't coping or whatever. But they were absolutely tuned into this. So this model that we have up here, there wasn't anything that they did not cover. So families came into that centre and they could be assured that they would have a fully wraparound service, and they had some wonderful slides that demonstrated how their service was truly integrated. I can't think of one service that was not included in the family base at Ballyfermot. So they are a community base like the Rialto. They're a not-for-profit organisation, young people, families supported to be well, and they have a voluntary board of membership as well. They have to survive as well with their funding, but they've been there a long time as well, and this model is reaping benefits to the community.
Part of the part that I liked with that as well was the children go in before nursery age, and so they move through that part of it, and then they go to school, and then after school they come back at 2:30, and then the older kids that are there, they come after school because it's open to 10 o'clock at night. And the children, whether their parents are engaging with it or not, the children are getting therapy over a pool table. This was amazing to actually see it all working, and to them it was quite natural and normal where we've not seen it. And you're like, the kids open up because they've been there since quite a young age, so they get to know the people that's working in the service. Then there's a lot of family issues going on, maybe no going to school, so the family base will say, okay, well, we'll try and help here. What time do you get them up for school? 8 o'clock, right? I'll be there tomorrow morning. If Sandra's not getting up for school, we'll come and see. So they intervene by going to the house to start helping the family, because maybe they've been caught up in addiction and mental health, everything that's going on, and they just can't cope with getting the kids up, or the kids are playing up. So they step in and get the kids up for school, take them to school, get them back to the family base or back home, and everybody just works together. And that's going on Monday to Saturday to 10 o'clock at night. And it's all community based. And it doesn't matter if the family doesn't want to engage, but they're really happy that their children are engaging, because they want to see their children thriving, and maybe the mum and dad or the granny or whoever is involved just isn't ready to get intervention, but they certainly didn't want their children to suffer. So they've got this amazing centre. But they took us into the music room. They had they were doing all different activities that they learned to put on like acting and make plays up, or learn them instruments, have the pool table. And they have their issues with the kids, but these kids are there for such a young age, right up to adulthood. And they maybe decide at 13 or 14, I've had enough, I don't want to come here. But then they come back because they realise, actually, that's quite good there. Maybe things going on at home. So we could learn a lot for that as well. The family base was really good.
I think something that stood out for me about that service in particular was that it was one referral form for all the different types of services within there. So it's not been bounced around using different referrals, accessing different departments. It was one referral form. And there might have been a waiting list, say if it was for therapy, but they could still access other parts of the service. So it's that whole continuum of care all the way through. So we talk about easy to get to access and easy to come back, to get out and come back in services. And that showed that all the way through. And I think because it was a community-based service, it covers all of the stuff. It's not, people aren't bounced around going to addiction treatment services, going to housing services. It's all under one area. But the one referral form definitely stood out for us, didn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so while we were there, we were very fortunate to be invited to the Citizens' Assembly. The Citizens' Assembly interim report had just come out on October the 23rd, so the timing couldn't have been better. And this is something as a group we've been following and looking at what the Citizens' Assembly on Drug Use in Ireland is recommending. So the committee has held further engagements, and as you can see, it re-met with stakeholders in June to October 2024. And from these, a further 59 recommendations have been made in the interim report of 2024, and the committee runs until 2025. So when we think about all the things that has been talked about today in this room, I mean, we're very aware, we were very specific in our visit, and we appreciate there are much wider issues going on in services and the good work that's been done here in Scotland as well. But for us, there were so many things stood out in Ireland, how they take this whole system approach and really do put it into practice. It's not just words on paper. But the key recommendations for us, we met with one of the senators, but out of all the recommendations that came out of this Citizens' Assembly was you can have all the health-led services you want, and including what they were, what they have in Ireland, and they recognise they need these services. They said you can have all these health-led services, but until we stop criminalising people, it is not a health-led service. So out of that recommendation, the main recommendation from the Citizens' Assembly Drug Reform Ireland is to decriminalise and to repeal Chapter Section 3 of the Misuse of Drug Act. And their Drug Act is very much based on the UK one. So that is their key recommendation. And we had a lovely afternoon with the Senator.
Yeah, we got to meet Lynn Ruan, and I have to say, in terms of spending time with politicians, she was something else, wasn't she? It was proper fangirl once I met her. She gets it. She has lived and living experience. She also, the area that she grew up in, and she also worked in community-led drug treatment services. So to meet her, and just as Stephanie said, we were really interested to find out about the process of the assembly. But actually, she couldn't have made it any clearer. It was about decrim, that actually we can't move forward with anything. And that's across all our services, whether that's housing, health. If we still continue to make people feel and that they are criminalised because of their substance use, then we're not going to move forward at all. And I think that was really the big message that we took from that, wasn't it? But I would definitely recommend that you check her out, and I would also really be keen for her to come over here too. She was a real inspiration, and pulled no punches either. So the original Citizens' Assembly had how many? It was 39, and then she added the extra ones into that and used that as an opportunity. So she was a senator. And some of the other recommendations within that, she was talking about cannabis communities, she was talking about HAT treatment as well. But again, just reiterated, it has to be the decrim that comes first.
So what we'd like to finish off with is kind of start where we need to finish. is, well, what did we discover as Families Campaign for Change in our learning journey with Dublin? And I think all of us were seeing similar things, but taken very much out of that. And I can only think about my experience as a mother when I tried to negotiate for my son and get services. I would hate anyone to go through that. But we could go on forever, but we condensed these down, and there was an awful lot of C's came up. Community values, compassion and love, that was in abundance. You could feel that. A real commitment to people in their local area. They knew what people's lives are about. They were tuned into that 100%. Connections and relationships were everything as to how these services worked. And really the courage to be creative, and from that first day in services right through to talking to Senator Lynn Ruan, they are, I think the Irish, you know, they've had to fight hard for a lot of what they've got, and they're not backwards at coming forwards, and this is now where they are in the Citizens' Assembly. So I'll let Sandra and Susan add some bits.
Well, I think through the journey that we've just been on, I'd love everybody to experience it, because you would come back here with so much passion and fight in you to want the same. And I think as Families Campaign for Change, we have decided we want to speak to the Scottish Government, we want to see about a Citizens' Assembly, and we're going to need support to do that. So watch this space where this is going to go, because this is our first presentation before we come back, and we've all got a voice and we're no shy, but we're actually doing something that is different, and we have to follow it through. So we really do hope to take this presentation further. We want to take it into the Scottish Parliament, that's a fact. That's so that we can invite people and start understanding what changes we need to make. It's the sign of insanity, keeping doing the same thing over and over again, throwing money at stuff and expecting things to change. We need to make changes, and I think joining in with the families, and especially as mothers, there's 34 of us, and we're all passionate, and we've all had so much heartache. We've suffered everything you could imagine with addiction, and we're still able to sit here and fighting for every child in Scotland and adult that's going through addiction. And we need everybody's support, and we need to work together. We can't do it if we don't work together. And we really need to start thinking about the foundations here. We can't keep fixing things in the middle, the top. We need to start at the bottom and work up if we want things to change. Okay? Right. Thank you.